I have a question for you today. Does your assessment inform your instruction? That's one of the age-old best practices of teaching. As teachers, we are expected to do assessments at the beginning of every year, and usually in the middle and usually at the end, and it's to measure growth. It would make sense that our assessment should inform our instruction, and therefore our instruction should be based upon the assessment, or at least connected to it. So for example, if I am going to teach a curriculum that follows a certain scope and sequence for phonics, I need to use that assessment tool to see where they are in that scope and sequence. If I'm using a totally different scope and sequence to assess than I am teaching, my assessment is not going to show the growth from my instruction. So teachers, I need for you to just kind of pause and think right now. All of those assessments that you did at the beginning of the year where you got wonderful information about what your kids know, what they don't know, where they fall in regards to being on grade level or below grade level, what their needs are. And then you've got all these lessons you've been teaching. And you may or may not have noticed growth in your students already. If you're not noticing growth, you need to think about if your instruction is aligned with the assessment tool and if you're giving your kids exactly what they need. The second piece to this is how far behind they are. When we have kids that are just a little bit behind, like if I'm teaching second grade and I've got just some, they're just below grade level, then I can use that second grade curriculum to kind of catch them up with these review weeks in the beginning of the year, and I can just pull them aside, give them a little more explicit instruction than the rest of my class, and I can use my second grade curriculum to catch them up. But if I have a non-reader in my second grade classroom, which teachers, do you? I know they're all over the place. Every classroom that I'm in doesn't just have one non-reader in the second grade classroom, but might have 3, 4, 5, or more, depending upon where you teach. So when we have non-readers in a second grade classroom where we're building independence with reading, how do we meet those needs? Hopefully not through the second grade curriculum. We're needing to reach back into other grades. We're needing an intervention program. And if we're using an intervention program, then we need to use the assessment that's aligned to that program so that we can measure growth. We need to be strategic about our teaching. We need to not just check boxes of, okay, beginning assessment's done, now let me go teach the curriculum. We need to think beginning assessment's done so I know the needs of my students. And how are the materials aligning with that assessment so that it will show growth or lack of growth, whatever happens based upon the student. So this is a best practice that seems so simple, but oftentimes we lose sight of it by just getting bombarded with all the things in our mind and just trying to keep our head above water. And there's so many needs. Let's make sure we're being smart about this one so that we're not wasting our time. We want our minutes to count, we want our instruction to count, and we want it to be what our students need. So let's make sure we're aligning assessment with instruction so that we can continuously assess and measure that growth on a more regular basis rather than just 3 times a year. Some of our kids don't have 3 months to just tread water. They need to be catching up quick. So let's help them out. My name is Brynn Decker, and to learn more tips and tricks, visit my website, inspiringliteracy.com. Thanks for listening. I'll see you next time.